the following sessions, which will take a look at some of the experiences that some producers have had in relation to actually making an application for a GI. We'll also have a speaker from the Bureau of Standards who will speak from their perspective. Before we do that, I will take the opportunity at this point to invite Mrs. Julia Bonner-Douay, who is the Director of Standards in the Standards Division at the Bureau of Standards Jamaica, to address you at this point. Welcome, Ms. Douay.
Thank you. Good morning to all the persons on the platform. Thank you, Dr. Hollingsworth. We at the Bureau, we are happy to be a part of this process. We do believe that, that the GI process and the GI manual is very important for how we move forward as a country. You know, in our Vision 2030 strategy, we do have a strategy to emphasize and use unique products to Jamaica as part of our strategy for economic growth. And this GI process does contribute to that because it allows us to identify the products and the persons here on the platform who may have products that are uniquely Jamaican, that you think are uniquely Jamaican. This is where you can use a tool or a strategy to get economic benefit from that product. So this GI manual will help us to be able to use, to find a pathway forward to use trademarks or geographical indications to protect our intellectual property. Now, the Bureau of Standards Jamaica and the National Quality Infrastructure, which includes the certification body of Jamaica, are strategically placed to help you, the producers here, and the owners of certain products, because, you know, in developing countries, the GI process operates mostly where the producers group sometimes become the group that monitors the implementation of the requirements for the GI. But in our countries and the region, we don't necessarily have such strong producer groups. So the Bureau of Standards Jamaica, not only do we produce standards to help with the code of practice and the producer's manual and specifications, but we will also be, I think, as Audrey spoke about earlier, part of the control bodies. We'll help you in terms of monitoring the produce that you're making and that kind of thing. So the Bureau will not only produce standards, we'll be part of the control body, monitoring the producer groups and the produce, and we also have the testing and calibration facilities that will help the producers as they go about. So we are willing and able and very much willing to be a part of this process, and we are very anxious, as we do believe that the success of our small economic entrepreneurs economically is very much pivotal to the success of the country. You know, the microeconomy is a bigger part of economic activity in any country. So we're happy to be here, and my colleague, Mr. Shane Slater, will talk a little bit more of what we do as a Bureau of Standards and how that impacts on this GI process. So thank you, Mrs. Hollins.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Douay. As Mrs. Douay said, the next speaker will be Mr. Shane Slater, who is the Standards Development Officer from the BSJ. He will be sharing the BSJ's experience working with GI producers of GI products or producers. Shane currently facilitates the BSJ's Bamboo Building Code by Biodegradable Plastics and Building and Associated Materials National Technical Committee. He's also as well as the National Mirror Committees for Circular Economy and Blockchain Technology. He also represents the Jamaica in terms of various committees on cross-Q. Mr. Slater, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So as was said, I'll be giving an overview of the BSJ's role in support of the GI manual. Is everyone seeing my screen?
Yes, we are.
Okay, great. All right, so as was alluded to earlier, the GI manual will require control systems, and at the heart of these control systems is the credibility, ensuring the credibility of the GI system. So that speaks to integrity, trust, reliability, authenticity, commitment, regard, and reputation. And some of the basic principles that will be required is that, as some of you may know from management systems, you need to say what you do and do what you say. So it's important to document your processes, your procedures, your inputs, so that you can show that, so that you can have it documented what you're doing, and you can make checks and audits on your entire system. You need to ensure that there's compliance between the specifications and the control plan. And need to keep in mind that controls, sometimes there can be additional costs, but these controls need to be seen as a way of making progress. And the control system must be adapted for the production situation. So the control scope would start with determining the origin of the product to ensure traceability in the production chain. There is the specifications and the production conditions, and then when you come to the outputs, the products themselves, their specificities and the quality aspects of those products. So the BSJ's role is to assist producers to develop their code of practice for geographical indications to ensure consistency in the production and the quality in production. And this would also include the actions that would need to be taken if a producer does not adhere to that code of practice. Furthermore, the certification and auditing of these products would be carried out through an accredited body. So when it comes to the specifications, there are various elements that would go into determining what is required. So regulation, the experience, the economic context, the history, the environment, to ensure the feasibility of these product specifications. So it needs to be credible and economically viable. So for this to work, there needs to be an inspection methodology to ensure that individual producers are adhering to this code of practice. And it would include testing for the predetermined product characteristics at different points in the production process, and recommending any improvements or penalties as required by the code of practice. So again, there would be a control plan, which will have an approval mechanism for the producers by the competent authority. It would also include organoleptic tests, which are tests that you can easily determine, such as smell, taste, look. So that would be part of the control. And then you need to ensure that the control plan and the specifications are very closely linked. And when you're writing these specifications, there need to be specific, unambiguous, very clear, because you need to be able to, for example, have a checklist that would come out of it if needed. So it would allow for clear identification of the control points and methods and frequencies for those controls. So for this to work effectively, there needs to be one person at least trained and skilled to administer the program and be able to monitor and evaluate the national GI development agenda to predict the demand for this. And then this would feed into the certification. Okay. So there needs to be adequacy between the product and its markets. The producers group must lead the development of the control system. It can't just be the BSJ that leads this. We need to have a close relationship between the producers and the control bodies like the BSJ. Now, the overall framework that the BSJ operates with it's grouped under three major headings. That's the conformity assessment procedures, the standardization, and metrology, which deals with measurement. And to break that down further, so the core services of the BSJ would include the standards, the conformity assessment, engineering, science and technology, and training, and their liaison bodies such as the NCBJ that deals with certification, and the NCRA, which carries out the regulatory activities. And then also there's additional support like HR and finance. Now to go into more generally what the services offered by the BSJ. So again, standardization, this deals with standards development, the research that goes into those standards, providing information on market access requirements through our regional and international trade branch, and also managing the client servicing program. And when it comes to conformity assessment, one of our major programs is the National Quality Awards Program, which recognizes businesses that have implemented management systems successfully. Now, the BSJ is also involved in regional standardization. We participate in regional technical committees, and as stated earlier, we participate as a member of the editorial and technical management committees at CrossQ. And we also participate in international standardization through ISO, through our P membership, our O membership, and holding the secretariat for TC93, which manages the standards for starch. Now, the BSJ also offers metrology services such as calibrations for measurement instruments and traceability of measurement standards. We provide testing services such as chemical, microbiological, product, nutritional analysis, and label assessments. And of course, we are very concerned with the sale of standards, client servicing, and also we provide several modes of training and professional development. So this is another look at our quality infrastructure. So it involves consumers, enterprises, markets, the institutions, and again, the pillars of standardization, calibration, metrology, accreditation, and certification. So promotion of standards, again, involves standardization, metrology, and accreditation. So all of these work together to form the national quality infrastructure in collaboration with our conformity assessment and certification partners. The BSJ serves as the national inquiry point. So anything relating to WTO and the TBT agreement, technical barriers to trade, we serve as the inquiry point, and we are also the focal point for the EPA. We're the focal point for national accreditation, and we also host the National Food Safety Modernization Secretariat and this task force. And what this secretariat does is assist food exporters to achieve compliance with the FDA, as well as the Safe Food for Canadians Act. In terms of trade capacity building for SMEs, we seek to provide a quality infrastructure to promote competitiveness in the market, safer food, and standards and conformity assessment along the value chain. Now, when it comes to food, again, the standards are relevant, the safety protocols, we promote HACCP and any other private schemes which will serve to provide safer food on the market. Now, this is just to give you an idea of some of the food standards that we have promulgated that would have relevance for geographical indications. So for example, the JS36 for processed food, spices and sauces, JSCRS 35, jams, jellies, and marmalade, JS261, and several other agricultural related standards would be relevant for GI. Now, this is just to give you an idea of how the standards development process works. So first, to understand the definition of a standard, the simple meaning is really just an accepted way of doing things, okay? And of course, there are many benefits of using standards, such as reducing waste, increasing productivity, protecting brand reputation, facilitating knowledge management, and improving consumer confidence. And our standards are prepared in 6 major phases. You have the proposal phase, where you indicate the interest to develop or revise or adopt a new standard. And once that has been accepted, then a technical committee would be established and a working draft would be developed. And that working draft would then become a committee draft, which is registered as a draft Jamaican standard, which is then circulated for public inquiry. And then following this, there's a 2-stage approval process. First, we require approval by the Standards Council, followed by approval by our portfolio minister. And once those approvals have been received, then the final draft standard can then be published as a Jamaican standard. So to conclude, the BSJ is here to facilitate and address your needs. We can assist with publishing, interpreting, and using standards. We provide testing and calibration services, and we are your go-to for quality management, conformity assessment, and industrial training. So thank you for listening.